Good evening and welcome to Quizzy Monday. It's going to be a slightly different Quizzy Monday tonight. The focus is going to be less on TV and more on radio. Today was the final of Counterpoint, the general knowledge music show, I think they call it, on Radio 4. It was also the return of Ken Bruce and Popmaster on whatever obscure channel they have Ken Bruce on nowadays. So we will be talking about Counterpoint. And we will be talking about Popmaster. And we are lucky to be joined today by not just one, but two Counterpoint champions. We have the 2022 champion, Frankie Fanko, and we have the new, and spoiler alert, newly crowned champion, Kathryn Johnson. And also joining us, we have Steve, hasn't won Counterpoint yet, Dodding. But I will bring them on. Let's get some chat going. So welcome, Kathryn, Frankie, and Steve.
Hi.
Hi, Gareth.
Well, hello, everybody. Now, just to say in the chat, Gerard is going, radio, Miles, greatest hits radio. Thank you very much. That's it. That reminds me of that. Not that I rushed my prep on that particular segment. Before we get going tonight, I have to play this. Congratulations, Kathryn. You are the champion of Counterpoint. Does it feel real now?
Yes, it does. It was actually quite a relief that it was on, because you wanted it. I was hoping that it still sounded convincing, which it did.
Yeah, well, it was really good. Listen, Frankie, bit weird for you, kind of the changing of the guard. How was it, kind of seeing your reign come to an end?
That's okay. Yeah, I've still got my trophy, so I'm all right. But I was really excited to listen to the final today. It was a great match, and Kathryn, I knew Kathryn was in the final, hoping she'd win, and so pleased when you did. Huge congratulations again, Kathryn. It was a brilliant performance throughout, and what an exciting buzz around as well.
Oh, it really was. Now we've got some Chris Dyson saying in the chat, congratulations, Kathryn. Miles, congratulations, Kathryn. Amazing quizzer. Paul Hibbert, congratulations, Kathryn. Pretty much anybody who knows you is going to be delighted for you today, Kathryn. You have been a star on the quizzing circuit for a long time. Obviously, you're still young, but a long time you've been at the top level. Is this the first time you've won a national title?
Well, we won. When I was with the library, we won University Challenge the Professionals, but that sort of solo thing, yes, it's the first thing on my own. I'm very good at coming second in things, so it's a great pleasure to come actually win something.
Yeah, because in terms of coming, you've run it close in Mastermind previously, haven't you? So yeah, really nice to get it over the line. How does radio differ from other quiz shows, TV quiz shows? I was quite surprised that it doesn't have that. When I'm nervous, it goes to my stomach and I feel sick, quite physically sick. And I didn't notice that because obviously you haven't got the feeling that everybody's looking at you. But what you do have is you have to, I think you have to concentrate a lot more. And I found that really quite difficult at first. And I think the thing I found the most difficult is that Paul Gambaccini starts reading the question when the audience is quite often still applauding from the question before, so that you didn't hear the first 5 words of most questions, which is a bit, could be a bit tricky, because then you're thinking, hang on, what does he actually want here? But no, it wasn't. It was a different sort of nerves, because I didn't have any expectations apart from not wanting to look a Burke. So once I'd done the first one, and the odd thing was I didn't know I'd won the first one. I didn't think I had. I knew I'd won the semi-final, and then I had no idea in the final at all. I really didn't know until they announced it. So it was, and if you hear that sort of sounding like a dirty old woman breathing, it was me, because I just was going, no answer. Very odd. Yeah, I mean that moment of it being over and not being sure whether you won or not, I can totally empathise with. Frankie, your experience, and recently, I say recently, last year or so, you've done a lot of different things, from Mastermind to Counterpoint, Round Britain Quiz.
Yeah.
How do you feel? It's all different. In terms of as a player.
Do you mean sort of between radio and TV? Or?
Yeah, the different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with what Kathryn said about the audience. I mean, in a way, you feel like there's a lot less pressure on radio because you haven't you haven't had to sort of sit in hair and makeup and you haven't got the sort of awareness of the camera on you and thinking, oh, don't pull a funny face, don't do this, or I hope I don't look funny. But then at the same time, the sort of the radio, like Counterpoint, Brain of Britain, that kind of thing, are the only things that I've done with a live audience. So that's sort of a different kind of sort of pressure or scrutiny, really. And I know a lot of the time people give answers on the radio, and for whatever reason, the audience will kind of collectively laugh just because, I don't know, maybe it seemed a funny answer at the time or whatever, but it can be quite unnerving if you just kind of thinking, well, I'll just make my best guess, and then everybody laughs and you think, oh, so yeah, which obviously you don't get that in a TV studio when it's just you and the crew, and so yeah, there's different pros and cons, I suppose. But I mean, I really like doing the radio, and as you say, I've done quite a lot of lately. I loved doing Round Britain Quiz last year, and I'm happy to say they asked me back this year as well. So yeah, so I recorded that a couple of weeks ago, and I think the first show I think will be the Midlands, which is me, playing the South, and that's on Easter Monday, I think. So it's not too long to wait for the start of that. But yeah, I mean, that was a great experience again. And again, that's a bit different again because it's not kind of sort of question answer. It's like you get given these papers and you have not much time, but you have a little time to sort of discuss it with your teammates, and then you kind of thinking not only what's the answer, but how can I make this sound interesting or funny, or so it's a sort of slightly different skill again, I guess, but all good fun.
Steve, have you ever been tempted to dip your toes into radio quizzing?
Well, yeah, I love radio quizzing as well, actually, Gareth. I remember back in 1978 when I won What Was That on Radio Merseyside. And
yes.
I've been, you must remember that. I've been living off it ever since. It's great, but yeah, it's a marvelous medium, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
What am I doing here, Gareth? I have no idea. I've no idea what I'm doing here.
We are looking forward to talking to you about Popmaster, Steve.
Oh yeah,
so,
okay.
Get all your incisive comments about that ready.
Okay.
But more comments. Pam, well done, Kathryn. Gerard, doesn't seem years since I heard Frankie win it, mind you. Given it takes a while to get around to catching up on radio shows, probably isn't. And also, well done, Kathryn. I usually expect the person I know to win these things. And Chris says, congratulations, Steve. So there you go.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
That recognition has finally arrived.
Yeah.
Now, Kathryn, you have long been known as being one of the best quizzes on sort of classical music and that element of the curriculum. And Counterpoint is probably the quiz more than any that really leverages that knowledge. But it goes beyond that nowadays, doesn't it? It has music, all types of genres of music, and into the general knowledge sphere. How did you prepare to try and cover those other bases that perhaps not your natural areas of knowledge?
I genuinely reckon that it was probably my pop music knowledge was beyond all hope, really. Apart from just brushing up, I had there were books scattered all over the house, so there was 100 bands you must know in modern rock music was in the downstairs loo, and I think the Virgin Encyclopedia of Pop Music was in the upstairs loo, and then there were various music encyclopedias scattered around the house. And I read a whole biography of Handel because I put Handel down on the form as, and instead I got 2 questions about Messiah, which I've known since I was about 14. But there we go. You don't need to worry about it. But it was just making sure you knew about the things that you had told that you were interested in. Because there's nothing that puts you off your stride more than somebody asking you a question that should be obvious.
It was quite good when you, in your first round, you picked up Jim Reeves, a fairly distinctive voice. Carnegie Hall was a nice piece of knowledge. Tintagel, and then Beyonce. So had you boned up on your Grammys? Because that was a really kind of up-to-date piece of knowledge.
I probably did the usual thing that I would have read the article in the Times all the way through, and seen the pictures of her in that she's expecting, and thinking I wouldn't have worn that when I was 4 months pregnant if I were you. But and then it would go straight out of my head again, and I was quite lucky with that. The one I was most pleased with was the one was later on about why the answer was, it was basically why music being forbidden in the Milan Stadium, because I'd read the article about Welsh male voice choirs not being allowed to sing it, and that had stuck in my head because it was quite funny. So that was good. It's just picking up bits of nonsense. And the other thing, I actually heard one of the staff talking that they've done a lot of questions this year about anniversaries. So I did 50 years and 100 years, and just go through the things, and stuff about the proms, and just the things that you are probably familiar with, but when you suddenly get asked an isolated thing. And also I did a bit of revision on Beethoven, because I have this complete blind spot about really obvious Beethoven questions. Unfortunately, I only got one, and it was even obvious that I didn't give Stuart, that's my husband, conniptions, who was sitting in the front row. There was one point where I could just see him in the edge of the lights at one point, and I was horrified to see him putting his head in his hands. Fortunately, God has mercifully wiped out whatever that was. I suspect it was that terrible thing where I forgot what the La Gioconda's connection with the Mona Lisa was. And you could, I couldn't tell you, could have put a gun to my head at that point, and I wouldn't have known what the answer was. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that felt like almost a little bit like what you're saying about the applause and then not catching the bit, and a little bit losing track of actually what the question was asking for, because you knew all of the component elements of it.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think when I thought yes, I can remember being taken to see Fantasia and that piece of music being in it, but I just didn't remember him asking that last bit of the question at all. It's as if my brain had switched off once I got the main bit of the answer, and I didn't guess the rest of it. But I'm still looking for that. I'm sure I have seen a picture of a dance to the music of time somewhere that's not the one he was talking about. But they cut about a minute's conversation out there. In fact, they cut one question out another one out altogether. Because one of the things, I don't know whether you noticed it, Frankie, was how determinedly low tech everything is.
Yes.
But it's just
very much so. 3
chairs, 3 microphones, 3 very good microphones, which is why you heard me say bum in the first round. And they put your name on by writing it on a piece of paper and folding it over the microphone stand. And so it's sort of simple things like that. And in that last round, in the buzzer round, there was a pause, and Paul Gambaccini and the other chap started back, and the buzzer system had said that both lights had come on at the same time. So then they had a conversation about what they were going to do, because that's not supposed to happen.
Uh-oh.
So they just cut that question out altogether. Mercifully, both of us got it wrong when they asked us what the answer was. So it was about what the statue of a statue in Vienna of a famous musician was doing, and fortunately, both of us thought of something entirely fanciful, which he was not doing. So.
I have to say, anybody who knows you will know the Kathryn Johnson reaction to missing an answer, which is
I've been there.
It's usually a bit more basic.
But we heard it on the Viv Stanchel question. Your reaction to missing that one, but you weren't alone, and it didn't cost you, which is great. Frankie, how did you prep? Because Kathryn's great at the classical music and was boning up on other stuff. Presumably, you were more the other way round. Did you put in a lot of work on the classical curriculum?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, because I tend to be stronger on pop music. So I've had a sort of fair bit of classical knowledge that had sort of lain dormant since my A-level music days, about 20 years ago. So I brushed up quite a lot on. I found listening to the Classic FM Hall of Fame playlist really helpful, just for that kind of hearing the most famous pieces of music and making sure I could identify them, basically, kind of to avoid any sort of embarrassing things where you're thinking, oh, it's that, but I can't name it. I did a lot of listening to Radio 3, and just a lot of reading around like composers, and I found the Rough Guide to Opera very, very helpful. I read loads and loads of opera synopses.
Oh,
could I just interrupt here?
Yeah, go on, Steve.
I once sat opposite Paul Gambaccini on the tube.
Okay.
That's it.
That's a very good anecdote whilst Frankie unfreezes.
I've got loads of them.
We lost you a little bit there, Frankie, but
okay.
You actually kind of got to a good point, I think, at the point at which you froze. Lots of classic FM and reading around the subject. And it did you well. Kathryn, you were tied at the end of round one. You had a little playoff to see who would get the categories. When I heard the categories, 100 Years of Disney, Classical Collection, Apple Records, Idioms, and Hollywood, I thought, Kathryn will be gutted if she doesn't get the Classical Collection one. When you lost that playoff, you must have been thinking, oh...
Well, I would have been in seriously deep doo-doo if I'd not got that one. And I wasn't actually mad keen on that, but they were actually very keen on you to try those. They say they're not as bad as you think they might be. But I think one of the most valuable things I did was I ploughed through about 3 series worth on YouTube. And it's slightly terrifying when you're listening to people's sort of mini special subject, because you realise there's whole areas of music you absolutely know Sweet Fanny Adams about, and they all sound impossible. But it's actually identifying areas where you can improve what you've got, because you get the odd thing in that, because it's only in the first round that you can actually pick up somebody else's questions. But it was another instance I was saying about you sometimes don't hear, or rather I don't, it could just be me. In the second round, where Shanice got a question, it was the answer. It was straightforward if you heard all the question, but fortunately there was a long silence. Shanice didn't feel she could guess it, and then he repeated a bit of the question, and I heard him give the year, and I thought that was that made quite a lot of difference. But it's a bit tricky. It's just the way you hear things, and I mean he's very good that he will repeat stuff. Because it's on radio, it's a lot easier for them to edit things quite sharply.
We got some more comments. Pam says, "Well done, Kathryn." Chris is reminding us that reigning Mastermind, Brain of Britain, and Counterpoint champions are all still women. Kathryn, even though I've been watching since the start, but I've been eating my tea. Well, I hope it was lovely, Kathryn. Congratulations, Kathryn, from another Kathryn. Jared says, exclaiming bum. That is very Kathryn. Michael McPartland says, I'll see your Paul Gambaccini, Steve, and raise you sitting opposite Glenys Kinnock on the tube.
Well, I can raise you that because I've sat behind Glenys Kinnock at the theatre, so,
Oh.
Forget it, Mike. Top that.
Paul Hibbert says, I'll see your Glenys Kinnock and raise you a Terry Pratchett. So, there we go. Chris Dyson drank next to Gambo in the Edge Bar in Soho. Keep these Paul Gambaccini one-upmanship's coming in.
This is what people really want, actually, Gareth.
It
This
really
you know,
is. It's what the people
you
have been begging for all this time.
Absolutely, you know.
86 live episodes in, and now we've found the formula. Kathryn, you did really well on the classical collection. You got 11 points. Ant Fish, haven't mentioned him. Really great player. He's been on the show before. Lovely guy. He pulled back in that round with the Hollywood category. Got 10, bringing him to 12. Sally Wilson notched into a little bit of a lead. Just 1 point with her Disney knowledge. Knowing you had the buzzer round to come, and well, everybody had got through 2 rounds, so you can't kind of read too much into the fact you got there. But did you feel well placed in terms of you're probably more buzzer practiced than the others?
I'm not certain, because Anthony he pulled back very well, and when we'd done the practice before the audience came, he was amazingly fast. And I think that was a little bit reacting, because I was terribly tense at that point. And I thought, well, I'm here now, so let's go for it. So, and I think once I got the question, the Tom Jones question. Again, that was that was in the Times that week, and also the question about the Doomsday Clock.
Yes.
Again,
Iron Maiden, not necessarily a band we would associate with you.
No. I mean, I didn't get it from that at all. There was just some phrase that gave it away. And after that, I thought, well, one more question. I think I might have been sunk. I think I was, going on empty. And that very last question, I buzzed as well, but I would have said the wrong song.
Ooh, which would have put you in a tie, wouldn't it?
It would have put it in a tie. And if they do that last one as nearest the ball, I'm useless at those. I don't know what it is. I always get it wrong by a complete order of magnitude.
Were you aware of the score?
My break for the end though isn't a nearest the ball, because my final went to a tie break.
Yeah.
And it was trying to think because I buzzed in quite early because I made a decision.
Was it a colour?
It was, yeah, it was. It was which colour connects all the following, and the first thing was a ballet directed by Matthew Bourne. So I thought, well, the Red Shoes is a ballet. Red, done. So So
yes, I mean I tend to be, when I'm playing buzzer quiz, I tend to be conservative, but you really, because she was a very good, extremely good player, and you couldn't really do that. And I think I didn't notice it so much at the time, but I noticed it today, was when he gave the answer and she said, "Oh no!" And I thought that must be awful, that moment, because she'd already dropped one, and noted that was what made the difference. But the other one that she got wrong, I wouldn't have known. But that last one, I thought I knew it. Wasn't.
I think Sally realised the right answer, didn't she? Sort of.
Yes.
Soon after she buzzed it, and if she buzzed and got that right, that would have been a tie.
Yeah.
But very, very close. Yeah, I felt
there was quite a lot of toing and froing about that, because at the first, if I remember correctly, I think Paul Gambaccini was sort of minded to give her that, that it was near it or something like that. And then you could tell they both got a message from, they said, no, it's not, that's not right, or something. Try it again, and he said it's not near enough, or whatever it was. But that was, that was what made the difference. So it was.
Were you aware of the scores at the time? Because it felt like to me she knew she was one down and had to go for it, but maybe she didn't.
I suspect so. If you're, I always think it's a bit like trying to see what question you're going to get in a teen quiz. If I'm doing that, I'm not concentrating on the question. So after the first 2 or 3 questions, I stopped noticing. Though I thought it was possible that it was just about level, but I just didn't know one way or the other. Whereas in the first one, I thought I hadn't. I thought I'd definitely lost, and in the second one, I knew I'd won, because I got the 3 in a row, and the other 2 had never come back. it was a very odd experience, that not absolutely knowing until he read her name out before mine, which was, and then of course I couldn't breathe properly. It was stupid. It's only a radio quiz after all, but there we are. It was.
It's very emotional, especially with the pressure of the buzzer.
Oh yes, yes, yeah.
It's very emotional. Yeah.
And I'm sure there was one question where I got the buzzer and I was hitting it. It wasn't. They mustn't have turned. The assistant mustn't have turned the buzzer thing off, and I must have hit the buzzer about 4 times before. Oh, it's I think my husband Stuart was sitting on the front row, and I said, was it nerve-wracking? He said, it was dreadful. He said, don't be scared.
Dreadful until the result was announced.
Yes,
and then wonderful. Frankie, you've been through this 12 months ago. What does it do for you winning something like this? In terms of your confidence and self-belief, and I don't know, just in general. What's the impact of winning something like this for you?
Yeah, I think for me it did really help my confidence. I guess just to prove to yourself that you are able to do it, because there's so many great quizzes out there, and there's so many people who come really, really close to winning titles, that it's very hard just to get over the line and actually win something. And I'd come close with Brain of Britain, Brain of Brains, Mastermind. So yeah, it did feel really, really good, just to actually get my hands on the trophy, and it, for somebody to call you the champion of something, I remember coming on here last year and you said, the new Counterpoint Champion, Frankie Fanko, and I thought, that is me. It sounds weird.
Yeah. And all of this must be very familiar to you, Steve, from 1978. It must bring it flooding back.
Yeah. I think I've got the trophy over here, actually. But I won't bring it out. I don't want to don't want to showboat. But yeah. When are we getting on to Popmaster, by the way?
Well, let's see.
That's the main event, after all.
I don't want to take anything away from these ladies. It's brilliant, I have to say. And Kathryn, I'm sorry I didn't listen to it tonight, because Gareth didn't mention it, actually. He didn't say we'd be talking about Counterpoint. Otherwise, I would have been glued to that. So, but congratulations. It's fantastic. Really, really pleased for you.
It is fantastic, and so many.
And for you, Frankie, as well. Really.
Yeah, he'd have listened to last year's as well if he'd had to. But no, congratulations, Kathryn. It was a fantastic win, one that will be much loved by the quiz community. You're a very popular person, and it's lovely when we see people like yourself winning. Delighted for you. Well, we are going to be moving on to talk about other matters, radio music, after this. For the second time this year, Evan Lynch has back-to-back wins of Quizzer of the Week. And second was James Davison from last week's Mastermind. Third from Matt Williams from the Pop Culture Challenge. Team of the Week was Pericardi and winners of the Online Quiz League. Second, 120 Days of Sodor from the Asian Quiz League. And third, Chaotic Good MILF Hotel from Online Quiz League USA. Don't forget, you can nominate anyone for Team and Quizzer of the Week. Go to tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. Nominations close at 5 p.m. every Monday. So, today was a big day in other radio music news, music quiz news, with the return of Popmaster with Ken Bruce on Greatest Hits Radio after a hiatus. Now, Steve, you have long been one of the leading lights in Popmaster fandom. You invented the Popmaster by the Pool dance, and you comment on it relentlessly on social media.
Relentlessly, I'm not sure I'd say that, but I do occasionally post about it, and very often I might get upwards of 10 comments on my posts. 8 of which aren't by me, which is quite good. So it's okay, but back today, and good fun. Good to hear his voice again on the radio. Bit strange with the new theme music, I have to say. Took me by surprise, but I suppose he didn't have the rights to the BBC one, so they've
had to mix it up.
Exactly.
What was it about Popmaster that you think kind of gained such a following and there was so much wailing and gnashing of teeth when it was announced he was leaving BBC?
Oh, Ken Bruce, he's just a consummate broadcaster, isn't he? He's just superb, great with the contestants. He has that empathy with them as well, which has been sadly missing, I think, with the replacement 10 to the top. Not quite the same.
No.
Also, it's a very simple format, Popmaster, very easy to follow. I think the new one, not quite so much, to be perfectly honest.
Michael says, hopefully no one was at it on Popmaster today.
Yes, that's copyrighted, actually, Michael.
Well, yeah, these phrases get copyrighted. I thought it's going to be great with copyrighted. Now seeing it used everywhere.
You would never say it about Counterpoint. You know, that is straight as a die. That is.
Yeah.
So no one is at it on Counterpoint. Just make that absolutely clear.
It sounds like they brought in at least one experienced player today to make sure it got off to a good start.
Didn't that seem a bit strange to you, Gareth? Yeah, it was Richard Todd, wasn't it? Not of the Dam Busters, the other one. But he was 2015's Champion of Champions, Champions League champion, which seemed a bit odd. And of course, naturally, he got a 39, got a total today, 39, and put up against a contestant who wasn't quite so high-powered. So a very unbalanced contest today. But quite a strange thing, I thought, actually, to have a champion of champions, actually, or Champions League winner, I should say, from such a short period ago, actually, on the programme. But there we are. I suppose you're right in that they wanted to have a good start and have a contrast with 10 to the top, where all the scores tend to be on the low side.
Yeah. And 10 to the top took the curious decision of launching with Zoe Ball and that guy who was on Strictly this year or last year. And it was...
Oh, Richie.
Two people.
The travel reporter, Richie Anderson.
Yeah. Two people who aren't very good at pop quizzing didn't really show off the format. Well, maybe it did show off the format to its best. Maybe that was as good as it got.
Oh, maybe. I have to say, through loyalty, I haven't listened to it too much, but I did listen to 2 episodes before I came here this evening, as you mentioned, we'd be talking about it. And it's very difficult to love, I have to say. I mean, you've got to say that you've got to give it a chance to bed in, but the format just isn't really there. And they made some major changes as well. Apparently, it's recorded. So whereas Popmaster was live, this is recorded and edited and just slotted in. So it loses that sort of jeopardy feeling about it. You know, anything could happen. Basically, nothing ever happens, unfortunately, from what I can hear. It just doesn't have that sense of spontaneity that the Popmaster had. That danger element. When somebody comes up with Green Pitney or something like that, for example, that's not going to happen on this one, I don't think.
Well, not least because they probably won't ask play Gene Pitney questions. In terms of Popmaster on the new channel, did you detect any change to the to match the music on the playlist of the channel, or is it much as it ever was?
We're talking about Popmaster now.
Yeah,
it's more or less the same. I think it's. I've noticed on the BBC one that I think they're trying to move it like half a generation up now, so we're getting a few more 90s questions, bang up to date. Whereas it used to be basically in the 70s, the 80s. Maybe even going back to the 50s. Jim Reeves. So I think they are trying to make an effort to move it forward a little bit on the BBC, but Popmaster very much lodged where it always has been, I think, in the 70s and the 80s still, from what I've heard anyway.
Excellent. And in terms of Ken Bruce, reassuring to hear him about where he was. Did we still have the elongated break after Popmaster that we always used to have?
Well, it's a series of adverts now you can go to the toilet during, so that's quite good. But that was the other thing I wanted to say. Actually, the quite reassuring thing about it on Greatest Hits Radio was that it was all in one piece, so we can all still dip into it without having to listen to the adverts. So the whole 15 minutes is advert free. So you don't have to pay your £3.99 a month to go with Greatest Hits Radio Premium, which is good because, frankly, I only ever listen to the 15 minutes of Popmaster anyway. So that's what I'll be continuing to do.
Or they might just hook us in, and then a few months down the line.
Well, I think that's very likely, and certainly today they put it up head to head with Popmaster. Sorry, with 10 to the Top on Radio 2. But there was a little hint at the end of today's program that it was going to shift time slot. So I think it's going to go beyond 11 o'clock now. So it's not in direct competition. So I think that's the next thing that's going to happen. I'm just trying to sort of keep it 10:30 because that's when people are used to tuning in, and then shift it when people get used to it, I think.
Well, we will wait and see. It's very entertaining at times. Almost as entertaining as
which one? 10 to the Top or Popmaster? Which one's entertaining?
Popmaster's entertaining.
No, it is pretty awful, actually.
Yeah.
But very, very. It does seem like it's somebody who's just been to a PTA event and decided they know what quizzes are about, and they'll just throw one together. I did think, if they spent as much time on the format as they'd spent on the theme song and the theme tunes and the jingles, then it might be half decent. But it really does feel like a thrown together quiz, with no thought given to it at all. I was wondering how long they had to actually. Sorry?
I was saying I heard 10 to the Top for the first time this morning, and I didn't think it was too bad, actually. I think I had very low expectations based on what everyone has said. I thought it was all right.
Well, I mean, it is a quiz, I mean, it is a quiz, but it's not particularly well put together quiz.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was always going to be hard to come up with something to follow Popmaster because, it'd been going for so long and everyone loved it. But I think 10 to the Top with the sort of accumulator format, I think would work better with sort of better quizzes. Sorry, that doesn't sound too snobbish. But
it's funny. There's a maximum of 65 points.
I heard today sort of didn't get very far, and then it kept going back to 1, 2, and it's a bit.
I did take some notes, by the way.
But yeah, I think if you've got 2 really strong music quizzes on, that could work quite well.
Yeah. I refer to page 56. My notes. But today's contest there's a maximum of 65 points. There was a 6, 2 7s, and a 15. So it's just so anticlimactical. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's just the format's so bad. They're always falling back down, and not getting anywhere. Nobody knows when to play the Joker. They've got no idea. Nobody knows what question they're going to be playing the Joker on. So, that's normally how a Joker works, isn't it? You save it for your best subject. Whereas it's just a number.
Either need better quizzes or maybe an easier question thrown in here or there to enable them to build up a bit more. Yeah. Maybe that's something they can fine tune as it goes on. I don't know.
I mean, you get bad quizzes on podcasts. It's the same pool of people at the end of the day, but there's a better chance, I think, of people because they're not falling back all the time when they get something wrong. There's a better chance of them getting a better score in Popmaster than this. Yeah, and also the other thing they've changed is the tiebreaker at the end, which is always great because it stopped Ken going to the toilet. Basically, this was the thing. Fans of Popmaster will know what we're talking about. I just referred to it before, but it basically has this little long song at the end of the show, which is fabled that he disappears to the executive bathroom. We don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, when he used to get a tiebreaker and people kept getting the answers wrong or kept getting them right, and it went on forever and ever, he got increasingly irritated, and that was always quite nice. It was quite good. If his IBS was playing up, it was terrible, so it just went on and on. But now what they've got is just the nearest the bull tiebreaker, which they ask them before the quiz. So it's sort of like, it's a draw, and we know what that means. Yeah, it's the nearest the bull tiebreaker, and So that happened today. I forget what it was, but it was dreary.
Yes, I found that a bit anticlimactic today.
Yeah,
as
that
well.
was quite dreary.
I wonder what the tiebreak questions are going to be.
Exactly.
And then it's sort of a boring.
The whole thing is an anti. Yeah, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you. The whole thing is an anticlimax. Really, there's no 3 in 10 at the end either, which is another thing. Which for a general public, a quiz aimed at the general public is great for people at home that are sitting there. So, oh, I can get 3 of those and what have you. And here it's just, oh, you've got a digital radio. Goodbye. They don't even get a shout out. Nobody has a chance to invent friends with funny names and things. They've got none of that going on. Absolutely none of that going on. So it's basically, well, thanks very much, goodbye, and here's some adverts. So it's not very good, Gareth.
Well, that is a pity, but at least we've got. I mean, on the grand scale of things going wrong in the world right now, it's probably not up there with war in the Ukraine and queues at Dover, but it is nonetheless.
We wouldn't be discussing those on Quizzy Monday, would we, Gareth? That's
true.
In the world of quiz, it's an absolute nightmare.
It is.
It's not Panorama.
Oh, how very dare you. Pam says, I'm glad we don't have the shout out. So Pam in with the hot take there. Okay, well.
Yeah, somebody's just said they're glad they don't have the shout outs. And I can kind of understand that. I know Ken Bruce used to hate the shout outs because they used to go on forever. But he then made the mistake of giving them 30 seconds to do it in. And I thought it added to the general fun of the whole thing, something else they couldn't edit, whereas this seems so clinical, they're making sure that it's going to run to a certain period, absolutely sure that's going to happen, making sure no one's going to sort of say anything slightly controversial, but those are always the fun things to look forward to on Popmaster, and now that's gone. I'm going
that's radio entropy, isn't it? Things just slide towards the abyss.
That's really
and on that positive note, thanks for your contributions there. We are going to watch a short video, then we'll come back with some chat about Mastermind. Last week's What is a Question competition was won by Stuart Beard. For this question, to the answer, curry. In the early 70s US Western TV series, the titular Smith and Jones were aliases for Hannibal Hayes and Kid Who. Congratulations, Stuart. Voting is now open on this week's long list. The answer is only, and you can vote at tinyurl.com/WITQ only. Voting is open until Wednesday evening when we release the shortlist to try and find a winner. And if you want to submit questions for What is a Question, well, we release a new Answer in Need of Question every Sunday morning on Facebook and Twitter. All you have to do is reply to that post with your question. Deadline for sending in questions is Monday at 4 p.m. So we move on to Mastermind tonight, where we're into, I think, the 4th semi-final. We had Stuart McNichol, Holly Franklin, Jonathan Evans, and James Beebe, and the subjects were Frank Zappa, Siegfried Sassoon, Aviators, and Eurovision. Before we talk about that, we had our competition to predict what might come up. And actually, I don't have my slide with the most common predictions. We had Lordi and Johnny Logan for Eurovision. We had, I can't even remember what it was, for Frank Zappa. But Valerie is quickly checking that out. Here we are. So, yeah, Frank Zappa was Freak Out. Siegfried Sassoon was Craig Lockett. Aviators was Amy Johnson. And as I said, Johnny Logan and Lordi for Eurovision. So, how did it all pan out tonight? Let's have a look. Ed Mason, Paul Hibbert, and Tim Hall all scored 4 points. 1 point for getting a question correct, 2 points for a unique correct answer, and 3 points if you got one of the general knowledge answers. Nobody got a general knowledge answer yet again. We also had Dave, Bill, Pam, Chris, Colin, Yee, Ken, Mick, and Philip all scoring points, which means that the leaderboard now looks like this. Tim Hall has 10 points, Ed Mason has 7, Yee has 5, and Paul Hibbert has 5 in third. We will be putting out the prediction competition tomorrow evening for next week's competition. So free to enter, just give us 3 predicted answers for each of the 4 subjects next week and 1 answer for general knowledge, and see how you do.
See, that's much better. That's much better than 10 to the top, Gareth.
Oh, well, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, but they didn't ask me to
only
be a
that-
consultant on a new quiz.
No, ridiculous.
We should do a 10 to the top prediction competition and see what comes up in that.
Maybe
Well,
instead of 10 to the top, Radio 2 should do
Lighthouse Family.
Pop Master on Greatest Hits Radio. And that's the new quiz.
Indeed, we could do all that predictions. So we've got some reaction to that. Paul Hibbert go whoop whoop. Play Paul. Pam, I got 2. Well done, Paul. And Catherine Burkett is going off on 1. Hold me now. Oh, Johnny Logan. She's having a Johnny Logan moment. But we'll leave you to that thought. Those of you who watched Mastermind tonight, what did you make of the specialist subjects? Frank Zappa, Siegfried Sassoon, female aviators, and Eurovision.
Siegfried Sassoon. I think she was probably expecting more questions on the works of Siegfried Sassoon than his life. I got the impression, which I think caught her out a little bit. But, I thought they were all very good choices, actually.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. Sorry, Frankie, go on.
Love the Eurovision one. I was quite surprised someone was allowed to do that, actually. It feels like something that might get requested a lot and then denied. So that was nice to see that there.
Yeah, and a very strong performance. The two strongest performances tonight on the special subjects were the female aviators, won 11 and 9 from James on Eurovision.
Yeah, it was a nice subject, that, the female aviators.
Yeah, a bit different. Yeah.
And rather unsurprisingly, the quizzes in the prediction competition scored heaviest on Eurovision, because there seems to be a big Venn diagram crossover between quiz and Eurovision.
Very popular in quiz, very popular Greek Geek Week, Gareth. I say.
Indeed,
mentioned Greek Geek Week there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know an act who could do some of the greatest British winning performances. Yeah, we'll have to get them on 1 week.
Got the guitar,
but not now. Not now. You don't get the guitar.
I could probably knock out a Bucks Fizz for you.
Could you indeed? Yes.
I could do with one of those right now.
Just water.
So Jonathan Evans, 11 points. I thought that was superb. The only blot on his copybook was a pass. Say Holly struggled. She got 4 out of the first 5 wrong, but then did pull it back. And I think we have to remember, as you said, Steve, sometimes if you don't quite see eye to eye with the setter, then it can be unfortunate. But she got to a semi-final. She's clearly good at Mastermind. It just didn't work for her on the night.
What was the title of the special subject exactly? Was it The Life and Works of Siegfried
Sassoon?
Yeah, it's always a bit, did they make her do that? It might be better just to do the life of the works, or...
Well,
yeah, I think they like you to do both, in my experience. I guess to give a bit more range to the questions. I guess more variety of things can come up. But yeah, I did feel for her there. I think, sure she revised loads of stuff and could have answered a load of other questions that didn't come up. But
that's the whole thing about Mastermind, isn't it? It's about 12 questions you've got. Probably 7 of them you get with doing no work whatsoever because you're interested in the subject. You're doing all that revision for like possible 5 points.
About 4 or 5 things.
4 or 5. Yeah, exactly. It's really tricky, isn't it?
But it is those marginal gains, isn't it, that makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody, being 1 or 2 points off the lead going into general knowledge and or being out of the game as she was. And you just have to prepare, really. Catherine, you came second in the grand final. In fact, you've been more than one grand final, I think, haven't you?
No, just that
just
one.
The one. Yeah. But I mean, your approach to revising for a grand final was very thorough, I remember. How did you go about kind of trying to make sure you got coverage?
Well, nearly getting sacked because I don't think I did much work. I only had something like 26 days between the semi-final and the final. And I still write everything down. I find I do not, by handwriting. So I'd have a sort of rough notes, and then I'd boil them down and just keep going through them. And just asking, I think the most valuable thing, especially if you're doing a biographical subject, is to actually always go to Wikipedia and making sure you absolutely know that you could answer the Wikipedia questions based on the Wikipedia entry in your sleep.
I think you're right there, Kathryn. I think definitely. I think with Wikipedia, it sort of gets rid of all the superfluous stuff you might find in a biography, which is going to be completely ignored by the setter, and boils it down to the facts, and the things which they're most likely to. So you could read sort of 4,000 or 5,000 page volumes, and probably not get as much out of it as reading the sort of comprehensive Wikipedia entry, I would have thought.
Yes, I think you just
again, as Gareth said, it's the margins, isn't it? You're looking for that 1 or 2 extra points,
Yeah, and arguing with the setters as I did, in every one I did, in actually knowing it well enough that I could say, no, that's not true. About
did you shout bum at them or something like that?
No, I did not shout bum at them. Anyone would think I was about to say something very embarrassing then, but no, I think you have to be incredibly single-minded about it. I can't remember doing much else other than Mastermind revision in that 26 days or 27 days. And it got to the point where there were certain things you'd go through. I'd be going through things and I realised I'd forgotten it, and thinking that's basic. That's one of the questions they're going to ask. But it never ceases to amaze me. I'm not a huge watcher of Mastermind, but when it's about a subject I know something about, the peculiar things they find to ask. I suppose they feel that they've got to, put something in to really pique people's interest. But it's still, the basic thing that everybody says about some of the questions are so windy that you wonder what you find yourself listening, thinking, what do they want to know? What's the actual question in?
Yeah, the no interruption thing is a pain, isn't it? It must be.
Yeah.
Because I was watching it tonight, and some of them were going on, and it was structured so that anyone who knew anything about the subject would know it in the first 5-6 words, and yet they had to sit there and listen all the way through, and it's such a shame.
But then that's kind of part of the skill, though, isn't it? Really, that it's not it's not the chase where it's like just a really quick question, quick answer. It's part of it is picking out what they need and saying it at the right time, I guess.
Absolutely, it's actually concentrating on the you've got to. It's a bit like juggling the bits of information. Yeah.
And of course, people at home, want with something like a special subject question. You're absolutely cut out if somebody answers after 5 words. You're not understanding anything of what's going on for 2 minutes. Whereas with a general knowledge question, you've got a chance at it. But with the aviators,
whereas on Popmaster, Ken would actually play the record anyway. Even if people had got it from the preamble, he'd play the whole
Andrew Gold, and he'd still play it. Yeah,
which is why Popmaster is better than Mastermind.
Yes. And on that bombshell, general knowledge, there was 2 points I think that Jonathan, who ended up James, who ended up winning, he was behind, needed to pick up, and he scored a brilliant 13. And we had a brilliant 12 from Stuart, the Frank Zappa guy. So in the end, it came down to whether Jonathan, who'd done the aviators, could get a good enough score. And I think once you're getting towards the 22, that sort of area, 20, 21, 22, there's always scope for things just not quite falling for you and you're tripping up. And I think that's what happened with him. Plus, I think James Beebe had been really, really sharp on answering really fast. Getting his answers out. Really good technique. So James goes through to the final. We've got 2 more semi-finals, and then we have the grand final, I believe, on the 24th of April. So we'll look forward to that. Now, we are going to very quickly... I've already done what is the question, haven't I? I'm going to say thank you to our Patreon members. And I seem to have got rid of the music.
Do you want me to get the guitar, Gareth?
No, anything.
Please no.
Not the guitar, please no.
So how bizarre. I seem to have deleted the music from that video, but there you go. These things happen. So thank you to all of our Patreon members who help fund the channel and keep us going. We do have a monthly quiz. Last week, we had our monthly quiz on flags. We will be having another one at the end of this month. So thank you to our Patreons. It really makes a difference to us, but equally to anybody who watches, shares, likes, subscribes to the channel. Finally, University Challenge. Southampton versus Robert Gordon. Just a very strong Southampton team managing to get through tonight, I thought. Steve, you were watching that. You probably
I was watching. I have to say, showing my ignorance here, but I wasn't even aware of Robert Gordon University, so that was that was the first surprise of the evening. It's,
right, they're not aware of you either, Steve.
No. Well, I've never won Counterpoint. Problem.
I don't think Potmaster by the Pool has reached Aberdeen yet.
No,
Bit
still
too
time,
chilly
still
for that,
time,
really.
Frankie. Still time. Would you want to be by a pool in Aberdeen, though? I don't think I would, really, but there you go. Yeah. Anyway, back to University Challenge.
Yes. Southampton were just, I mean, 2 very strong teams, 2 very strong captains. I think one of the players that made the difference for Southampton again was Lyon. A couple of buzzes, but some just really solid team play and interjections and suggestions when they're discussing bonuses. Really good play. Belcher and Miles both coming in with some great buzzes. It felt like much more was on Anderson and Cullen for Robert Gordon, and Anderson was trying to get in and negging, and it just wasn't happening for them.
No, it's
they had a mini fight back.
It did. It was respectable, wasn't it, at the end, really, in a way? Well, semi-respectable.
Yeah. I mean, when they were on...
I think Southampton were, I think, one of the better teams at conferring. But even so, with a relative, rather slightly weaker performance against them, I felt they should have got more than they did. But I think that's been a general weakness in this series. I think that quite a lot of the teams have been absolutely terrible at conferring.
You do get quite a lot of sort of talking over each other and someone saying the right answer, and then it sort of Chinese whispers and it gets fluffed. And and I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like they get a lot longer to confer now than they used to.
Well, I think.
They do, don't they? Yeah, they
used to kind of say 2 words, and then Paxton would be like, "Come on!" But now they're sat there for ages, and you kind of think, you need to be more decisive than this.
Yeah,
Chris has put,
I think, go down a bit for me.
Yeah. Chris has put, I think, in the bonus rounds, they maybe could introduce a timer. Not sure if it was especially bad tonight or I was in a mood. They seemed to debate every answer, even when they definitely knew it. I guess sometimes if you're in the lead, there might be an incentive to take your time over bonus questions. But and we saw
don't the producers want that? I mean, it never used to happen, as far as I can remember, back in the day. But they seem to encourage that almost, really. We've seen them working towards the question. So they obviously think it's a good thing, but I should imagine a lot of people at home are a bit frustrated by it.
I mean, good conferring is great to watch. Teams floundering, less so.
Yeah.
But, Robert Gordon have been a great team throughout this series. I say great, a really good team to watch. I think they were kind of in the second rank of teams for this series. Southampton probably shouldn't have found themselves in a position of having to play for their survival at this part of the competition. They are a very strong team, and they live to fight another day. I think for me, my highlight of the match was confusing Casey Stoney with Casey Stoner.
Yeah, every time for me. Yeah.
But one day I'll remember the two. But congratulations to Southampton. Now we are going to look at the nominees for Quizroom Team of the Week. When we come back, we will look at what our champagne moment of the night might be. I wonder what that could be. Could be Popmaster, obviously, from Steve's point of view, but we will see in a minute or two. Here are this week's nominees for Quizzer of the Week. George Burras for 14 out of 15 in the Pop Culture Challenge. Greg Fanu for 13 out of 15 in Pop Solos. Pat Gibson for his Quest Grand Prix win. David Harris for an OQL Full House. Liam Hughes for an OQL Full House. Kathryn Johnson for becoming the BBC Counterpoint Champion. Jonathan Klein for 7 out of 8 in OQL USA Division 4 Sapphire. Andy Kravis for 13 out of 15 in Pop Solos. Evan Lynch for an OQL Full House. Tonight's Mastermind winner. Anthony Rockhead for 14 out of 15 in Pop Culture Challenge, Dean Strachan for 7 out of 8 in the QLL Plate, and Ethan Webb for an OQL Full House. And the nominees for Team of the Week are Cambridge, the Quiz League of London President's Cup champions, Chaotic Good MILF Hotel for their 6th consecutive OQL USA Championship, Cornell, the NAQT Intercollegiate Championship winners, Jacobs Crackers for a big QLL win against the Handicap, the Unknowns for a big OQL win against the Handicap, and tonight's University Challenge winners. You can now vote at tinyurl.com/QW03APR23. That's QW03APR23. Voting closes on Friday at 6 p.m. There we go. Steve.
Only 2 winners there, I think, Gareth.
You'll be voting for Jacobs Crackers then, will you?
I could never do that.
We will.
No. You're voting for Kathryn, though.
Indeed. Well, since we recorded that, we have added into the voting sheet that Southampton won University Challenge and that James Beebe won Mastermind. So the names are in there. It's just that's a pre-record and didn't know who'd won at this point. So good luck to all of those. Don't forget to vote. Our champagne moment of the day. Steve, I'll start with you. What was your favourite quizzing moment of today?
I wish you'd asked me this before. I could have thought of something. And where are my copious notes? They've all disappeared. They're under the chair. Hang on a minute.
I tell you what, this is my favourite quizzing moment of the day.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to someone else, Gareth? And I'll come back with something poignant.
Let's go to Frankie.
Oh, it's definitely Kathryn's win for me. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I meant to say that. Sorry.
What?
Sorry.
It was just
It's Kathryn's win, Gareth.
Yeah. I can't believe you didn't think to say that, Steve. I mean, come on.
Oh, I was under pressure. I'm no good under pressure.
But yeah, no, definitely the exciting buzz around. I mean, the whole of Counterpoint was amazing, but then the exciting buzz around, and when they announced that Kathryn had won, I punched the air. I was really, really happy. So yeah, really pleased for you, Kathryn. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, Kathryn, how about your champagne moment? What was your highlight of today's broadcast?
Oh dear. I mean, it had to be. I think that just remembering that moment when there isn't anything up on the board that you can see, so you don't know. So the first time that you actually know you've won is when he says who the second place person is, and it generally was not exactly a shock, but it was good. It was really good, and I think it was sort of better because having heard it now, they do a beautiful job editing it, making it sort of smooth and witty, and it was a good experience, and I'm really glad I did it, and I met a lot of interesting people. The 2 other people on the show were great, so that would have to be mine. You know, that announcement was really good.
Good. Congratulations again, Kathryn.
Even though it's the end, which is,
Steve.
Yeah.
Have you come up with anything different?
Well, since we last spoke, Gareth, I've looked through my copious notes here, and I've realised there's absolutely nothing of any interest in them whatsoever. So I'm going to stick with Kathryn winning Counterpoint. I mean, what could be better than that today?
Indeed.
Congratulations.
Of course, for me, it's the same. I think there were a couple of moments in that last round where it's like, can she do it? Can't she do it? I thought the Olivia Newton-John answer, where I was thinking, okay, that's one of these factoids that's been out and about for the last year or so, I guess. But
what was the question?
That was great.
Obviously, I'd be able to a bit more input if Gareth had told me about this. But
you should have been listening to Counterpoint anyway, Steve. You shouldn't need 2 crimes to do that. Come on.
Especially with my history in radio.
Exactly. You're Mr. Radio Music Quiz. You should be all over it.
But what was that 1978 actually, Frankie? What was that?
I thought with that one because Kathryn,
Billy Butler.
Kathryn will have come across this fact before.
Oh, what was it?
But I was waiting for you to buzz in, and then when you did buzz in and then didn't answer immediately, I thought, oh my God, is it not coming?
Is it the Max Bourne one? Or?
But we didn't get to Max Bourne. She buzzed in before Max Bourne was named. But then there was, and it's like, well, and then there was the Doomsday Clock, 2 minutes to Midnight by Iron Maiden references what thing, and I thought again that is just under pressure, making those connections in your head, finding the right words to name the Doomsday Clock. It's sometimes even though it, you can't bring these things out under pressure. Those for me were great moments, and then that final question when it was got wrong, and I thought, well, by my maths, Kathryn has got that, and that was just brilliant, because as a friend and as a former teammate, it's like, get in, just absolutely superb moment. So yes, delighted for you, Kathryn.
Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful.
So
what have we got? Gerard, mine was learning Kathryn won Counterpoint about an hour ago on this chat, along with Steve.
You did do a spoiler alert, though, didn't you? You did do a spoiler alert. That sounded a bit naughty. Yeah. As if they didn't really want to know about it.
And Kathryn's personal champagne moment, getting 23 as a final chase score. Other Kathryn's win. So good order you put that in, Kathryn. And other comments Chris has put, well played, crackers, handing out a thrashing to the unfortunate and sexy eclectics. That's a reference to the Quizzer of the Week and Team of the Week vote.
Well done, crackers.
Yes. So if you're still watching at this point, after all of the rather sort of chaotic chat we've had tonight, then if you haven't already clicked the like button, please do so on the video. If you aren't subscribed, please click subscribe. All that helps other people to find the channel. And we don't just do Quizzy Monday. In fact, we'll be coming to an end of Quizzy Monday fairly soon. But we do have all the other videos on the channel. There's another one out tomorrow morning about how to make sure you never forget the order of taxonomic ranks. Again, I mean, that's going to be an absolutely fascinating 1 minute 14 seconds that will enrich your quiz life. So look out for that. I'm sounding sarcastic. I do mean 14 seconds that you should.
He sounds like a Jamaican quizzer, doesn't he? Taxonomic ranks. I don't know, but
Valerie's correct. It'd be rank, not ranks. But there you go. Okay. Next time you bring out that pun, you'll be absolutely on the money. Oh, hang on, Gerard is putting out his own mnemonic. There you go. Kings put crowns on for great splendor. Pam says she's learned that she needs a Chinese dynasties again. Well, all of these videos can be found on the All Things Quiz YouTube channel in the Quiz Academy section. Don't forget you can vote for Quizzer and Team of the Week at tinyurl.com/QW03APR23, and you can vote for What is the Question at tinyurl.com/WITQ only. Get your votes in for that one. Voting closes on Wednesday, and then we'll release the shortlist for the winner. Every day, lunchtime, quiz time is on Twitter and Facebook. Play along with that. And we will be back next week with some God knows what guests. Let's face it, we always we always don't know who's on until the BBC release who's going to be on Mastermind and University Challenge. So we will be back with some people. But at the Only Connect reunion the other night, I was talking to a number of people who have volunteered, including Frank Paul and Selena Conroy, who would be absolutely cracking guests, and we're going to get them on before the end of the series. Have an absolutely tremendous week. We will be back again same time next week. And until then, have a good time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.